Okay, so picture this. Our bodies are these like crazy intricate factories, right?
Yeah.
Each cell like a little workshop humming away. And then you have the genes.
Right.
The genes are like the master blueprints, making sure everything's running smoothly.
Keeping the whole operation going.
Exactly. And what happens when there's, like a typo in one of those blueprints?
Oh, that's when things get interesting.
Yeah, suddenly the workshop's cranking out faulty parts.
Yeah.
In the body language. That's this disease-causing proteins.
Precisely. It throws a wrench in the whole works.
So what if you could like sneak into that blueprint, find that typo and just silence it, like hit delete?
Now you're talking. That's the fundamental idea behind RNA interference, or RNAi for short.
RNAi.
And the thing is, it's not science fiction. This is real. This is happening right now. It's changing the face of medicine.
And here's what blows my mind. It's not like we invented this whole thing from scratch. RNAi is already happening in our cells. It's a natural quality control system.
It's like this amazing built-in editing system.
Yeah, and scientists have figured out how to hack into it to give it a boost.
Give the body's own editing tools a serious upgrade.
Like giving our cells an internal delete key that's super precise.
Exactly.
So today we're going deep into the business of RNAi therapeutics.
The companies, the science, the potential.
Yep. We've got this awesome report from the LLM journal, The Business of RNAi. It lays it all out.
It's a fascinating read.
And our mission today is to break it down for you. Understand these groundbreaking companies, their strategies for tackling disease, and what it all means for the future of medicine.
Not to mention what it might mean for your investment portfolio.
Oh, yeah, that too.
But at its core, the promise of RNAi is huge. It's transformative. Instead of just treating symptoms, we're going right to the source, silencing the gene that's causing the problem.
Fixing the blueprint, not just patching up the broken part.
Exactly.
So how does this blueprint correction actually work, at the molecular level?
Okay, so normally your DNA gets transcribed into messenger RNA, mRNA.
mRNA, got it.
And that mRNA carries the instructions to the ribosomes, which are basically the protein factories of the cell.
The assembly line.
Yeah, and that protein, it could be something essential like insulin.
Right.
But if there's a mutation in the gene, the protein could be harmful, and that's what leads to disease.
So RNAi comes in at the mRNA stage.
Right before the faulty protein is even made.
It's like intercepting the bad instructions before they reach the factory floor.
Exactly, and this is where the precision comes in. Scientists design these tiny snippets of RNA called siRNAs, small interfering RNAs.
siRNA's tiny but mighty.
They're like little molecular assassins designed to match the sequence of that faulty mRNA perfectly.
So they're targeted, they're not just going after any random mRNA.
No, they're specifically designed for the bad guy.
And then once the siRNA gets inside the cell, it hooks up with this protein complex called RISC.
The RNA-induced silencing complex?
RISC, that sounds kind of ominous.
Well, it is in a way. RISC is the executioner and the siRNA is its guide.
Leading it right to the matching mRNA.
And once it finds its target, boom, RISC slices and destroys the mRNA.
No faulty message, no harmful protein, problem solved.
It's like stopping the problem at the source.
And you said this is super precise, like way more precise than traditional drugs.
Oh, absolutely. Traditional drugs can be like carpet bombing. You might hit your target, but you also cause a lot of collateral damage.
Yeah, a lot of unintended consequences.
RNAi, on the other hand, is like a SWAT team going in with laser focus.
They know exactly who they're after.
No wasted effort, no unnecessary damage.
So who figured this whole thing out? I mean, it sounds pretty revolutionary.
Well, the story starts back in 1998 with two scientists, Andrew Fire and Craig Mello.
Yeah.
They were working with gamatos, those tiny little worms.
Oh, yeah. I remember those from biology class.
And they found that double-stranded RNA could actually silence specific genes in these worms.
What? So just introducing this RNA molecule could shut down a gene?
Yep. It was a groundbreaking discovery. They even won the Nobel Prize for it in 2006.
Wow, a Nobel Prize. That's huge.
Yeah, it really shook up the scientific world, but translating that discovery into therapies for humans, that was a whole other challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, our bodies are a lot more complex than a nematode.
Right, and one of the biggest hurdles was delivery. How do you get these fragile RNA molecules to the right cells without them getting degraded along the way?
It's like trying to deliver a package through a maze of obstacles.
Exactly, and the early clinical trials ran into some serious roadblocks. There were side effects, some even fatal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a setback for the field. A lot of the initial excitement died down, and Big Pharma pulled back their investments.
It seemed like RNAi might just stay a promising idea, but not a practical one.
But then everything changed in 2018.
What happened?
The FDA approved the first ever RNAi therapeutic Alnylam's Onpattro.
Onpattro.
It was a game changer. It proved that RNAi could work safely and effectively in humans.
So it was like the moment of validation the field had been waiting for.
Exactly. And with that validation, the investment floodgates opened.
Big Pharma was back.
Yeah, they saw the potential, and now we're in the middle of this multi-billion-dollar race to develop RNA therapies for all sorts of diseases.
From rare genetic disorders to major killers like heart disease.
And at the forefront of this revolution are some incredibly innovative companies, each with their own unique approach.
So let's meet the players, starting with the company that really kicked it all off. Alnylam Pharmaceuticals.
Way pioneers.
Yeah, you say RNAi therapeutics.
Mm-hmm.
And Alnylam's like the first name that pops into your head.
They've been there from the beginning.
Founded in 2002, their whole mission was built around turning RNAi into real treatments for patients.
And they stuck with it even when things looked tough, even when others were doubting.
They were all in on RNAi.
Yeah, and their strategy has been laser-focused target diseases with clear genetic causes, where a specific gene is the bad guy.
Makes sense. Go after the root of the problem.
And then develop highly targeted RNAi therapies to silence that gene.
So no messing around, just straight to the source.
And they set these ambitious goals for themselves. Early on, they had this 5x15 plan.
5x15, what's that?
5 RNA therapies in advanced clinical development by the year 2015.
That's bold.
Yeah, but they actually achieved it, and now they've upped the ante with their P5x25 plan.
So even more ambitious.
More therapies, wider range of diseases, and building a sustainable, growing business.
That's impressive. But, I mean, how do they actually get these RNAi therapies to work?
Right.
You mentioned delivery being a challenge.
Right. Well, a big part of their success has been their development of effective siRNA delivery platforms.
Delivery platforms. Okay.
It's not enough to design a great siRNA. You have to get it to the right cells in the body and protect it from getting degraded.
So it's like the packaging and the delivery system all in one.
Exactly. And Alnylam has pioneered a range of methods. They've got intravenous infusions, subcutaneous injections.
Subcutaneous, those are the shots under the skin, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they're even working on intrathecal delivery, which is injecting the therapy into the fluid surrounding the spinal cord.
Wow. That sounds pretty intense.
It's reserved for targeting the central nervous system, but for patients with serious conditions, it can be life-changing.
And these delivery methods are getting better all the time, right?
Absolutely. They're working on ways to make the treatments more convenient for patients, less frequent dosing, longer-lasting effects.
So less time in the doctor's office, more time living your life.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the therapies they've actually gotten approved, the ones that are out there helping people right now.
They've got 6 FDA-approved RNAi drugs on the market, a pretty impressive track record.
6? Wow. Okay, so first up we've got Onpattro.
The one that broke the barrier.
Yeah, approved back in 2018 for this rare disease called hATTR polyneuropathy.
Hereditary transthyretin-mediated amyloidosis.
Okay, hold on. I got to write that down. hATTR polyneuropathy.
Basically, it's a condition where a misfolded protein builds up in the nerves and causes damage.
Misfolded protein, so like a glitch in the protein folding process.
Yeah, and Onpattro silences the gene responsible for making that protein.
Stops it at the source.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have Givlaari.
Approved for acute hepatic porphyria.
Another rare one.
Yeah, it's a liver disorder that can be incredibly painful.
So what does Givlaari do?
It targets the ALAS1 mRNA, which helps reduce the buildup of a toxic metabolite that triggers those painful attacks.
So it's like preventing the buildup of this harmful substance.
Exactly.
Okay, and then there's Oxlumo for primary hyperoxaluria type 1.
Another mouthful, I know.
Yeah. But it's important to say these names because people are living with these conditions.
Absolutely. And Oxlumo is helping people with this condition that causes the overproduction of oxalate.
Oxalate, what's that?
It's a substance that can form kidney stones and damage the kidneys.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, Oxlumo reduces the production of that excess oxalate protecting the kidneys.
Okay, next up we have Lephio.
Now, this one has blockbuster potential.
Blockbuster, so we're talking big money.
Big impact, too. It's for high LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol.
Oh, wow. So this could help a lot of people.
Yeah, it targets a protein called PCSK9, which plays a role in how the liver clears cholesterol from the blood.
So it helps the liver do its job better.
Exactly. And this one was co-developed with Novartis.
So Big Pharma is definitely on board with RNAi.
Absolutely.
All right, so then we have Amvuttra.
This one's like the next generation Onpattro.
So it upgrade.
Yeah, it's approved for both the nerve damage and the heart muscle damage caused by HATTR.
So it tackles both aspects of the disease.
And it has the added benefit of less frequent dosing.
It's always good.
Easier for patients.
Okay, and last but not least, kephilia.
For hemophilia A and B.
Hemophilia, that's a bleeding disorder, right?
Yeah, and kephilia helps by lowering the levels of antithrombin.
Antithrombin.
It's a natural blood thinner. So by lowering it, kephilia helps people with hemophilia form blood clots more effectively.
So less bleeding, less risk.
Exactly.
6 approved therapies. That's amazing. But I bet they're not stopping there.
Not even close. Their research pipeline is packed.
So what else is cooking in the Alnylam labs?
They're working on treatments for Huntington's disease, hypertension, cerebral amyloid angiopathy, even some types of liver cancer.
Wow. They're really going after some big challenges.
And one candidate in particular is generating a lot of buzz, nucresiran.
Nucresiran. Okay, what's so special about that one?
It has the potential to be a once-yearly treatment for ATTR amyloidosis.
Once a year? That's incredible.
Yeah, early clinical data shows it can reduce the target protein levels by over 90% for at least 6 months after just one dose.
That's a game changer for patients.
Imagine only having to think about your treatment once a year.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
And beyond the science, their business model is maturing too.
So they're not just a research company anymore. They're actually making money.
Right. They're getting royalties from their partnership with Novo Nordisk on Leqvio. They're expanding collaborations with companies like Roche.
So they're building a sustainable future.
Exactly. They've proven that RNAi can work, and now they're showing that it can be a viable business.
Alnylam truly blazed the trail, and now others are following in their footsteps.
Which brings us to Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals.
Arrowhead, the delivery specialist.
Exactly. If Alnylam was the explorer, Arrowhead is the engineer building the infrastructure to reach even farther.
So they're taking RNAi to the next level.
Yeah. While Alnylam initially focused on the liver, Arrowhead thought bigger. What about all the other tissues and organs?
So they're thinking beyond the liver.
Yeah, they're asking, how can we deliver RNAi to the lungs, the muscles, the heart, the brain?
That's ambitious.
And to do that, they developed this proprietary technology platform called TRiM.
TRiM. Okay, what does that stand for?
Targeted RNAi molecule.
It's all about targeting.
Exactly. It's like a toolkit for designing siRNA drugs that are precisely guided to their destination in the body.
So no more carpet bombing. This is precision delivery.
And the key is ligand-mediated delivery.
Ligand-mediated. Okay, break that down for me.
So they attach a specific address label, a targeting ligand to the siRNA molecule.
An address label. I like that.
And this ligand is designed to bind to receptors that are abundant on the surface of specific cell types.
So it's like putting a zip code on the siRNA so it knows exactly where to go.
Precisely. And the TRiM platform is super flexible. They can tailor the combination of ligands, linkers, and other modifications to optimize for each specific tissue.
It's not one size fits all. It's custom made.
Exactly. And they've had success in some of the toughest areas for drug delivery. The lungs, the muscles, the heart, fat tissue, even the central nervous system.
Wow, those are areas that have always been hard to reach with traditional drugs.
And they're making real progress. For example, their pulmonary program uses an integrin-targeting ligand to deliver RNAi directly to the cells lining the airways.
So they're basically delivering the therapy right to the lungs.
Yeah, and their candidate AR-RAGE for inflammatory lung disease is showing promising early data.
That's great news for people with lung conditions.
And for the central nervous system, they're exploring both intrathecal injection and subcutaneous delivery.
So a shot under the skin could potentially treat brain diseases.
That's the goal. It would be a huge breakthrough.
And in muscle tissue, they've achieved over 80% knockdown of target genes in preclinical models with subcutaneous dosing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and this work led to a major collaboration with Sarepta Therapeutics to develop RNAi therapies for rare muscle diseases like FSHD and Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
These are devastating diseases, so this partnership could be life-changing for patients.
And they're not stopping there. They've even made progress in targeting fat tissue, achieving long-lasting gene silencing.
Which opens up possibilities for treating obesity and type 2 diabetes.
Wow, so they're really covering a lot of ground.
They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with RNAi.
So let's talk about their pipeline. What are some of their key drug candidates?
Their most advanced candidate is plozasiran for familial chylomicronemia syndrome, or FCS.
FCS, what's that?
It's a rare genetic disorder that causes extremely high triglyceride levels.
Triglycerides, those are a type of fat in the blood, right?
Yep, and high levels can be dangerous.
So plozasiran helps lower triglycerides.
Exactly. It's actually under review by the FDA right now with a decision expected in November 2025.
So it could be their first approved therapy.
And the phase 3 trial data looks really good. Significant reductions in triglycerides and fewer cases of acute pancreatitis.
Pancreatitis, that's a serious inflammation of the pancreas.
Right. It can be life-threatening, so preventing it is a big deal.
Okay, so plozasiran sounds promising. What else is in the pipeline?
They also have ARO-AAT for alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency,
Okay.
ARO-ANG3 for lipid disorders,
Got it.
and a couple of complement targeting drugs like ARO-C3 and ARO-CFB for kidney disease.
So they're tackling a wide range of conditions.
And they've got even earlier stage programs for things like obesity, other pulmonary conditions, and Huntington's disease.
It seems like they're involved in just about everything.
They're definitely a company to watch.
And from a business perspective, how are they doing?
Financially, they're in a great position.
Okay, good to hear.
Their collaboration with Sarepta brought in a $500 million upfront payment plus a $325 million equity investment.
That's a lot of cash.
Yeah, and they could get billions more in milestone payments and royalties as these programs advance.
And they've also got this financing agreement with Sixth Street, which gives them a cash runway into 2028. So they're well-funded and ready to grow.
Exactly. They've got the resources to keep innovating and developing new therapies.
So Alnylam proved RNAi could work. Arrowhead is expanding its reach, and then you have Novo Nordisk coming in with a totally different approach.
A big splash.
Yeah. Let's talk about how this pharmaceutical giant jumped headfirst into the RNAi game.
So Novo Nordisk, they're a huge player in the diabetes and obesity space.
Right, everyone knows them.
But they weren't early adopters of RNAi. It wasn't their core focus.
But then in 2021, they made a big move.
A $3.3 billion acquisition of Dicerna Pharmaceuticals.
Wow, that's not messing around. That's a serious commitment.
It was a strategic decision. They weren't just buying a company, they were buying a mature RNAi platform.
So they were basically buying their way into the game.
In a sense, yeah, they saw the potential of RNAi and they wanted to get in on the action quickly.
And Dicerna had already developed some impressive technology.
Right. They had their GalXC and GalXC Plus platforms.
Galaxy. Okay, what's that all about?
It's all about targeted delivery to the liver. The key is a chemical modification called GalNAc conjugation.
GalNAc conjugation, that's a mouthful.
Basically, they attach a molecule called GalNAc to their RNAi therapeutics.
And what does that do?
GalNAc acts like a homing beacon for liver cells. It binds to receptors that are highly expressed on those cells.
So it's like a GPS system guiding the RNAi right to the liver.
Exactly. And Dicerna had already proven this technology in clinical trials.
So Novo Nordisk wasn't taking a gamble. They knew this stuff worked.
And there's another interesting layer to this story. Novo Nordisk and Dicerna were already collaborating before the acquisition.
So they were already working together.
Since 2019, they had a partnership covering over 30 liver cell targets for metabolic and rare diseases.
A lot of unintended consequences.
Yeah, they'd seen firsthand the potential of Dicerna's technology.
So the acquisition wasn't a surprise. It was more like the next logical step.
Exactly.
And since then, Novo Nordisk has been busy integrating Dicerna's RNAi capabilities into their own research and development.
They're developing new delivery strategies, expanding their pipeline.
So they're not just sticking with the liver anymore.
No, they're pushing into other tissues too. They've got collaborations like the one with 11 Therapeutics to explore targeted delivery for cardiovascular disease.
They're really thinking broadly.
And they're also leveraging data from large-scale genetic studies to identify new RNAi targets.
Like the SELECT trial, right?
Yep. They're using that data to find potential targets for obesity, prediabetes, kidney disease.
So they're really committed to this technology.
For Novo Nordisk, RNAi is a cornerstone of their vision for the future of medicine.
They're not just treating symptoms, they're trying to modify the course of disease.
And with their global reach and expertise in metabolic disorders, they're in a strong position to make a big impact.
So it's a totally different approach from Alnylam and Arrowhead. They acquired a whole platform and they're scaling it up rapidly.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Okay, so we've covered the big players, but the LLM Journal report also highlights some other up-and-coming companies in the RNAi space.
Smaller companies, but with big potential.
Yeah, let's give them a shout out.
Absolutely. Two companies in particular stand out, Silence Therapeutics and Alnylam Pharmaceuticals.
Silence Therapeutics. Okay,
Yes.
What are they all about?
They're a UK-based company currently in the clinical stage, and they've got their own RNAi platform called mRNAi-GoldD.
mRNAi-GoldD.
Okay. They're focused on durable and safe gene silencing without any permanent DNA alteration.
So safety is a top priority.
Absolutely. Their lead candidate is zerlasiran, which targets lipoprotein.
Okay, so zerlasiran could help prevent heart attacks and strokes.
That's the goal. It's shown promising results in phase 2 trials, and they're looking for a partner to move it into phase 3.
So they're looking for someone to help them get this drug to market.
Exactly. And they've got other candidates in development too, diviserin for polycythemia vera, a blood disorder, and a complement targeting candidate in preclinical stages,
So they're focusing on rare and underserved diseases.
where they have the potential to be first in class.
Okay, so that's Silence Therapeutics. And then we have Alnylam Pharmaceuticals.
Based in South Korea.
Oh, okay, what's their story?
They've developed these unique RNAi platforms called Dicerna and Dicerna.
Dicerna and Dicerna.
They believe these platforms offer advantages in terms of reducing off-target effects and improving tissue penetration.
So more precise and more effective.
That's the idea. And they've got a really broad therapeutic focus: skin conditions, liver and eye diseases, pulmonary disorders, even the central nervous system and neuropathic pain.
Well, they're not limiting themselves at all.
Their goal is to have over 10 active clinical programs by the end of 2025.
That's ambitious.
Yeah, they're moving fast, and they've got some key collaborations too, like with Eli Lilly for metabolic conditions and Dynamic Cure for antibody-drug conjugates.
So they're attracting attention.
Definitely their unique delivery chemistries make them a company to keep an eye on.
So if we had to sum up this whole deep dive into the business of RNAi, what would be the key takeaways?
I think the biggest one is that RNAi is no longer just theoretical. It's a validated therapeutic platform with huge potential.
It's real, it's working, and it's only getting better.
And innovation in delivery remains crucial. That's what's going to determine which companies succeed.
It's not enough to have a great RNAi drug. You have to get it to the right place in the body.
And the investment from both biotech and big pharma is a sign that they believe in this technology.
They're putting their money where their mouth is.
And we're starting to see RNAi move beyond rare diseases into more mainstream medicine.
So it's not just for niche conditions anymore. It's going to impact all of us.
Exactly. It's a revolution in medicine, and it's still in its early stages.
So it's an exciting time to be following this field, whether you're a scientist, a patient, or an investor.
Absolutely. There's so much potential and so much happening.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the business of RNAi.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back soon with more in-depth explorations of the fascinating world of biotech.
Until then, stay curious.
And keep an eye on RNAi. It's going to be big.
It already is.